A restaurant owner messed up with a chef, and what happened later will shock you. So watch till the end. Marcus had always been known for his extraordinary culinary skills, a quiet genius in the kitchen. Working as a line cook in one of the city's most prestigious restaurants, he had earned a reputation among his colleagues for his innovative dishes and precise techniques. However, despite his talent, Marcus felt like a cog in the wheel. His hard work often went unnoticed by the restaurant's management. For years, he'd poured his heart into each plate, but his ambition had always been stifled by the arrogant, dismissive attitude of the head chef and the distant owners who never seemed to acknowledge his potential. Marcus had big dreams, and he yearned for the day when he could break free from the constraints of working under someone else's name. As much as he loved cooking, the frustration of being overlooked by those in power was beginning to take its toll. Every day felt like a battle, and Marcus started to question if he would ever get the opportunity to run a kitchen of his own. His friends and colleagues constantly told him he was too good to remain in this role forever. Yet he couldn't seem to catch a break. He often fantasized about owning his own restaurant one day, creating dishes that would push the boundaries of flavor, and building a team where talent and creativity were nurtured. Little did he know that day was closer than he thought. He would soon face a turning point that would change his life forever. The restaurant he worked in was about to show him the door, but it would unknowingly set him on the path to owning the very place that had stifled his potential. Restaurant setting. The restaurant where Marcus worked was a lavish, upscale establishment, known for its exclusive clientele and reputation for fine dining. The interior boasted elegant decor, with crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling and plush velvet seating. Yet, despite the luxurious atmosphere, the place was struggling. The food was becoming stale, and the service was inconsistent. The once bustling dining room was now only half full on most nights, with customers beginning to voice their disappointment on review sites. The management seemed too detached to notice the subtle decline in quality and customer satisfaction. The head chef was more focused on maintaining his high status within the kitchen hierarchy than improving the dishes or innovating new concepts. This restaurant was the epitome of an establishment that had lost its way. Behind the scenes, the kitchen was chaotic. The once creative team had turned into a group of disgruntled workers going through the motions. Marcus could feel the creative spark fading each day as the head chef micromanaged every detail and discouraged any new ideas. The menu had become repetitive, filled with safe choices that didn't excite or challenge the taste buds of their upscale guests. Yet, despite the obvious cracks in the foundation, the owner, a wealthy investor named Rachel, refused to make any substantial changes. She was focused more on profits than on nurturing the restaurant's identity. For Marcus, this was the final straw. He felt his talent was being suffocated, and he couldn't shake the thought that he could do better if only given the chance. Marcus's dream. Deep down, Marcus always knew he was capable of more. Every time he created a new dish, it was more than just about the food, it was about telling a story. He dreamed of a restaurant that would celebrate culinary artistry, one that would take risks and push boundaries. But despite his passion and talent, he felt trapped in a system that didn't value innovation. He had no financial backing, no network to help him take that leap into ownership, and no clear path forward. Still, Marcus believed that one day he would be able to realize his dream. Every time he worked in the kitchen, he imagined what it would be like to have his own team, his own menu, and the freedom to create without constraints. There was a fire in Marcus that no one could extinguish, not even the toxic environment at the restaurant. He spent his off hours reading cookbooks, watching cooking shows, and experimenting with new ingredients. Marcus knew that there was more to food than just feeding people. It was about creating an experience, making an impact on others through flavors, textures, and creativity. But this wasn't something he could do in a place where his every move was scrutinized, and where his ideas were often dismissed. He daydreamed about opening his own place, a cozy, intimate bistro where customers would leave feeling like they had experienced something truly special. He envisioned a restaurant that celebrated local ingredients and fresh flavors, with a rotating menu that changed with the seasons. But for now, all of that remained just a dream, tucked away in the back of his mind as he served his final plate for the night. The incident. The evening that changed everything began like any other busy night in the restaurant. The staff were rushed, the orders were piling up, and the kitchen was buzzing with tension. Marcus was at the grill, cooking a signature dish, when the head chef, always a perfectionist, noticed a minor mistake in the plating. Instead of simply correcting him, the head chef exploded, accusing Marcus of ruining the dish and calling him out in front of everyone. His voice was loud, echoing through the kitchen, making everyone freeze in uncomfortable silence. Marcus, already fed up with the constant belittling, could feel the eyes of his co-workers on him, waiting to see how he would react. The words stung deeply. Marcus knew he had made a small error, but the way the head chef went about it was humiliating. He was tired of working under a tyrant, someone who never appreciated the hard work and dedication he put into every dish. In that moment, Marcus made a decision. He would no longer tolerate being treated like this. Without saying a word, he walked away from the stove and headed straight for the exit, his frustration boiling over. As he left the kitchen, the staff watched in disbelief, unsure of what to make of it. Marcus didn't know it then, but that moment of anger and humiliation would serve as the catalyst for a series of events that would lead him to take control of his destiny. Little did anyone know, this was the beginning of the end of Marcus's career as an underappreciated cook. Outside the kitchen, the incident continued to echo in Marcus's mind. He stood on the curb for a moment, his heart racing with a mix of anger and relief. He was done. No more would he stand in the shadow of a chef who never understood him. He had given everything to this job, and yet all he received in return was ridicule. The sting of public humiliation was unbearable. The head chef's voice still rang in his ears as he walked down the street, each step making him feel more and more free. But that freedom also came with a sense of uncertainty. Without a job or any immediate prospects, Marcus felt like he was floating in limbo. As he wandered through the streets, replaying the incident over and over, Marcus bumped into Rachel, the owner of the restaurant. She was standing outside, pacing anxiously, speaking on the phone with a business partner. Marcus had only seen her a few times, always in passing, but this was different. Rachel looked stressed, and the weight of the restaurant's problems was written all over her face. She was talking about selling the place, discussing how it had become a financial burden. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. The restaurant that had just kicked him out was on the verge of collapse. As she hung up, she looked up and recognized him. "You all right?" she asked, and Marcus, in a moment of impulsivity, blurted out an unexpected proposal. "Why don't you sell it to me?" Rachel, taken aback by Marcus's sudden offer, hesitated for a moment. She looked him up and down, clearly doubting his ability to back up such an audacious claim. Marcus, however, didn't flinch. He had no money, no business experience, but in that instant he was determined to take control of his own future. His passion for the restaurant world had driven him to this point, and he wasn't going to let the opportunity slip away. "I can fix this place," he said with conviction, his voice steady despite the fears swirling inside him. "I can make it work. I'll take over, buy it from you. Just give me the chance." Rachel studied him for a moment, her face unreadable. It wasn't lost on her that the restaurant had been in decline for months, and she was nearing the breaking point. Despite her doubts, she could sense Marcus's determination. There was something about him, perhaps it was the fire in his eyes or the way he spoke with such certainty, that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, he could turn things around. She had nothing to lose. With a deep sigh, Rachel made a decision. "All right," she said, shocking both herself and Marcus. "You've got 5 minutes. We'll make a deal." In that brief exchange, the fate of the restaurant was sealed, and Marcus had just become the owner of a business he had once been kicked out of. The moment Rachel agreed, Marcus's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what had just happened, but one thing was clear: he was now the owner of the very place that had cast him aside. It was an overwhelming feeling, a mix of disbelief and excitement. As Marcus walked back through the restaurant's front doors, he couldn't help but notice the way the staff looked at him now. They had seen him leave in anger, only to return as their new boss. There was a palpable shift in the air as he stepped back into the kitchen, where his former colleagues now regarded him with a mixture of shock and curiosity. He had no formal experience running a business, but he knew this restaurant inside and out. It was time to turn things around, to bring the creativity and passion that had always been missing. Walking through the familiar kitchen, Marcus felt both like a stranger and a familiar face. His heart raced as he mentally prepared himself for what lay ahead. There would be no time to waste. He had to fix the financials, the menu, the service, and the reputation of the place. But Marcus had a vision. He knew how to inspire his team, how to bring out the best in the people around him, and most importantly, he knew how to create food that would blow people away. As he looked around, he realized that the hard work had only just begun. This was no longer just about surviving in the culinary world. It was about thriving and making a mark. And he was ready for it. The next morning, Marcus gathered the entire staff in the dining room for an impromptu meeting. The restaurant was still in disarray, but the moment was crucial. His mind raced with ideas and plans for how he would approach this new role. He had no time to waste. He needed to inspire his team and give them the vision for what he was about to do. As the staff trickled into the room, they looked at him with a mix of confusion, skepticism, and a touch of hope. No one could quite understand how the cook they had seen storm out the night before had suddenly become their boss. Marcus stood at the front of the room, his posture straight, his voice steady. "I know you all have questions, and I don't have all the answers yet," he began. "But I can tell you one thing, we're going to turn this place around. I'm not here to manage. I'm here to lead, to work alongside you, and to create something that matters. We're going to bring innovation back into the kitchen, and we're going to build a place where we're proud of every dish we serve." The staff exchanged glances, some of them still doubtful but others beginning to feel a spark of optimism. Marcus knew the road ahead would be tough, but he could feel the energy shift in the room. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where he would prove everyone wrong, including himself. Marcus's first few days as owner were a blur of decisions and adjustments. He began by overhauling the menu, simplifying it while still keeping the quality high. Gone were the overly complicated dishes that didn't excite the guests. Instead, Marcus focused on creating a small, but bold, menu that emphasized local ingredients and fresh flavors. He worked tirelessly with the kitchen team, teaching them new techniques and encouraging them to experiment. His energy was infectious, and soon the entire staff began to see the potential for change. But it wasn't just the menu that needed a facelift. The restaurant's decor had started to feel dated, so Marcus enlisted the help of a local designer to freshen up the space. He chose earthy tones, minimalistic designs, and accent pieces that reflected the local culture. Meanwhile, Rachel, still uncertain about her decision, observed the changes from the sidelines, quietly hoping Marcus's vision would bring results. As the restaurant's atmosphere started to transform, so did the mood of the staff and customers. There was a renewed sense of pride, a feeling that this restaurant could once again be the place to dine. Marcus knew that every step he took was leading him closer to his ultimate goal, reviving not just the business, but the essence of what it meant to eat well. Despite the initial success and positive energy, Marcus soon realized that running a restaurant was no easy feat. The business side of things quickly became overwhelming. Cash flow problems, unpaid bills, and the pressure to turn a profit weighed heavily on him. The reality of ownership was far more complicated than he had imagined. Marcus had to learn about everything from inventory management to payroll and marketing, things he had never considered in his years as a cook. It became clear that his culinary skills, while essential, were only part of the equation. He needed to become a true business owner, something he hadn't prepared for. As the weeks went by, the challenges began to pile up. A few of the suppliers Marcus had worked with in the past were now hesitant to deliver, citing the restaurant's declining reputation before he took over. The financial situation was tight, and Marcus knew he had to make some tough decisions. Would he keep the staff he had inherited or cut costs by reducing the team? Would he take out a loan to cover expenses, or find a way to bootstrap the operation? The pressure mounted, and for the first time since he had taken over, Marcus wondered if he had made the right choice. Could he really save the restaurant? It seemed like an uphill battle, but he wasn't ready to give up. He had something bigger at stake now, his future. As Marcus struggled to navigate the complexities of running the restaurant, he found support in the most unexpected places. One of the regular patrons, an older gentleman named John, noticed the changes happening at the restaurant and was impressed by the new energy. John had been a loyal customer for years and had watched the place go through many ups and downs. He saw potential in Marcus, recognizing that the young chef had what it took to succeed. One evening, after finishing his meal, John pulled Marcus aside and offered to help. "I've seen you work, kid," John said, his voice gruff but warm. "You've got the skill, but you need someone to help you navigate the business side. Let me lend a hand." At first, Marcus was hesitant. He didn't know if he could accept help from someone outside the business, but John insisted. "I've been in the restaurant business for over 30 years. I know the ins and outs, the struggles, and the triumphs. If you want to make it, you'll need someone who understands the business side of things." Marcus reluctantly agreed, and from that point on, John became a valuable mentor. Together, they worked through the logistics, and John's insights helped Marcus avoid costly mistakes. It was a game changer that made Marcus believe, more than ever, that he could turn the restaurant around. Over the next few months, Marcus's hard work and dedication began to pay off. Word started to spread about the changes happening at the restaurant, and more customers began to trickle in. People were curious to see if the new menu and revitalized atmosphere were as good as the rumors said. Marcus's focus on fresh, local ingredients and his innovative approach to classic dishes won over many loyal customers. The kitchen, once a place of tension, now hummed with energy as the team embraced Marcus's vision and worked together to create memorable meals. The restaurant's reputation slowly began to shift. It was no longer a place known for its decline, but rather a hidden gem that served exceptional food. As the dining room filled with customers, Marcus noticed that they weren't just here for the food, they were here for the experience. The restaurant had become a destination, a place where people could expect both incredible dishes and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. This was exactly the kind of restaurant Marcus had always dreamed of creating. Yet, he knew that the journey was far from over. The challenge now was to maintain this success and ensure that the restaurant continued to grow, but for the first time in a long while, Marcus was confident he was on the right track. One day, as the restaurant's success seemed more certain, Marcus was confronted by someone from his past, his former head chef, the one who had publicly humiliated him in front of the entire kitchen. The man walked in, holding his head high, looking every bit as arrogant as he had when he ran the kitchen. Marcus felt a rush of anger, but he stayed calm. The chef approached the counter and smirked. "I see you've turned this place around, but don't think for a second you can do it without me," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. Marcus stood still for a moment, taking in the words. He thought about everything he had gone through to get to this point, the hours spent in the kitchen, the risks he'd taken, the sleepless nights. And then, with quiet confidence, he smiled. "This restaurant didn't need you," he said, his voice steady. "It needed someone who was willing to take risks, who understood what it means to be a chef. Thanks for the push, though. I'm doing fine without you." The head chef left without another word, and as Marcus watched him walk out, he felt a wave of closure wash over him. He had faced the past, and in doing so, had come full circle. This was his restaurant now, and he would never be pushed around again. After months of hard work, Marcus's restaurant had finally caught the attention of local food critics. He had been anxiously waiting for his first major review, hoping it would reflect the effort and dedication that had gone into revamping the place. When the day came, a well-known food critic named Samantha Owens walked in. Marcus had heard her name whispered in the culinary circles and knew her reviews could make or break a restaurant. His heart raced as she was seated at a table, her discerning eyes scanning the menu with precision. When Samantha left, Marcus felt a mix of anticipation and dread. He knew the restaurant was performing better than ever, but this was a critical moment. The next day, the review was published. It was glowing. Samantha praised the restaurant's fresh, inventive approach, calling it a new star in the city's culinary scene and mentioning the atmosphere, which was now inviting and filled with energy. The food, she wrote, was simple yet extraordinary, with bold flavors that hit all the right notes. The review was everything Marcus had hoped for and more. As he read the words, a sense of relief washed over him. The validation was overwhelming, but Marcus knew this was just the beginning. He had to keep pushing, keep improving, and ensure that his restaurant remained at the top. Despite the positive review, Marcus quickly realized that his restaurant's success came with growing pains. The increase in foot traffic was exhilarating, but it also presented new challenges. The kitchen was constantly under pressure, and it became difficult to maintain the high standards he had set. The team was working at full capacity, and Marcus had to hire additional staff to keep up with the demand. However, finding the right people was not as easy as he had imagined. He was determined to maintain the integrity of the restaurant, which meant only hiring those who shared his passion for food and service. There were moments of doubt as new employees came and went, and some of them struggled to keep up with the pace. Marcus spent long hours in the kitchen, leading by example, hoping to instill the same dedication and passion in his staff that had gotten him this far. On top of the kitchen issues, the business side of things was becoming more complicated. Managing the finances, marketing, and operations was beginning to stretch him thin. He realized that to continue growing, he would need to bring in more experienced managers to handle the day-to-day logistics. It was a tough pill to swallow, but Marcus knew it was necessary. Growth required change, and he had to evolve if he wanted his restaurant to thrive in the long term. While the new influx of customers was exciting, Marcus never forgot about the loyal patrons who had supported him when the restaurant was struggling. These were the regulars who had continued to dine at the restaurant even when it seemed like things might never improve. They had witnessed the transformation firsthand and were now witnessing its success. One such regular, Mrs. Lopez, had been coming to the restaurant for years. She was a retired schoolteacher who had developed a deep fondness for Marcus's cooking. One evening, after a busy dinner rush, Marcus spotted her sitting at her usual table, enjoying a quiet meal. He walked over to her, smiling warmly. "Mrs. Lopez, it's always a pleasure to see you," he said. She looked up at him with a twinkle in her eye. "I told you, Marcus. I knew you had it in you," she said. "You've created something special here. This restaurant is more than just a place to eat, it's a place where people feel at home." Her words meant more to Marcus than he could express. They were a reminder of why he had worked so hard to turn the restaurant around, to create a place where people didn't just come for the food, but for the experience. As he continued to serve his loyal customers, Marcus felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the community that had supported him through it all. With his restaurant flourishing, Marcus began to entertain the idea of expansion. He had already achieved what he set out to do with this one location, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had more to offer. He began considering the possibility of opening a second location. It would be a massive undertaking, requiring a significant amount of time, energy, and capital. However, the idea of reaching more people, of spreading his vision, excited him. He had learned so much from the first location, and with the right team and resources, he felt confident that he could replicate the success. As he started researching the feasibility of opening a new restaurant, Marcus encountered a host of new challenges. He had to secure funding, find the right location, and build a team from the ground up. The pressure of overseeing multiple ventures was overwhelming at times, but Marcus was determined to make it work. He had come too far to back down now. The challenges of expansion reminded him of the difficulties he faced when he first took over the restaurant. But this time, he wasn't alone. His loyal team, mentors like John, and even some of the regular customers offered advice and support. Marcus knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face it head-on. His dream was expanding, and so was his restaurant. As the expansion plans progressed, Marcus began to doubt himself. Was he really capable of running 2 restaurants at once? Could he maintain the same level of quality and attention to detail at both locations? The pressure began to mount, and Marcus found himself struggling to balance his personal life and professional responsibilities. He had poured his heart and soul into this restaurant, and the thought of losing control or making a mistake was terrifying. The doubts crept in during the quiet moments, when he was alone in his office late at night, staring at spreadsheets, or when he lay awake in bed, unable to silence the worry that kept him up. But Marcus knew that doubts were part of the journey. He had faced obstacles before and had always come out stronger on the other side. He remembered the day he was kicked out of the restaurant, how angry and defeated he had felt, but how that moment had led him to something greater. If he could overcome that, he could overcome anything. With that realization, Marcus recommitted to his vision. He reached out to his mentors, leaned on his team, and trusted in the process. Slowly but surely, the doubts began to fade. He focused on his goals, taking one step at a time. He knew that success didn't come without struggle, but as long as he kept moving forward, he would find his way. As Marcus continued to navigate the complexities of owning 2 restaurants, he began to find a balance. He learned how to delegate responsibilities to trusted managers and found ways to manage his time more effectively. The key was in creating systems that allowed him to focus on the aspects of the business that mattered most to him: the food, the customer experience, and the overall vision. Marcus no longer felt the need to be involved in every single decision. He trusted his team and empowered them to make choices that aligned with his values. With this newfound balance, Marcus was able to spend more time doing what he loved most: cooking. He returned to the kitchen more frequently, where he found joy in experimenting with new dishes and connecting with the staff. His presence inspired the team to keep pushing boundaries and creating exceptional food. The restaurant was thriving, and Marcus had finally found the equilibrium between business and creativity that he had been searching for. The pressures of ownership were still there, but Marcus was no longer overwhelmed. He had learned to adapt, grow, and lead with confidence. His dream of creating a successful restaurant had not only come true, it was thriving, and so was he. Just when things seemed to be going perfectly, Marcus faced an unexpected setback. One morning, as he walked into the kitchen to begin preparing for the day's service, he was greeted with an unsettling sight. The kitchen's equipment had malfunctioned overnight. One of the refrigerators had broken down, causing the fresh ingredients to spoil. The entire inventory for the day was ruined, and the restaurant was in danger of losing a significant amount of revenue. Panic set in briefly, as Marcus wondered how he would recover from such a costly mistake. But instead of letting the setback defeat him, he decided to face it head-on. With his team by his side, Marcus quickly pivoted. He contacted suppliers, arranged for new ingredients to be delivered within hours, and worked with his chefs to create a new menu using what they could salvage. The customers who arrived for lunch that day had no idea about the disaster that had occurred behind the scenes. Marcus's leadership and ability to stay calm under pressure ensured the restaurant stayed open and the service went smoothly. This was just another reminder to him that challenges were inevitable, but they could be overcome with resilience and teamwork. By the end of the day, the restaurant had not only recovered, but the staff had grown even closer, cementing the strong bond that had been built through adversity. As the restaurant's reputation continued to grow, Marcus was invited to participate in a prestigious food festival. It was a huge honor, as the festival was known for showcasing some of the best chefs in the country. Marcus knew this would be the perfect opportunity to introduce his cooking to an even wider audience. He spent weeks preparing for the event, meticulously planning the dishes he would present. It was a significant moment for him, as it marked a new chapter in his culinary career. On the day of the festival, Marcus and his team worked tirelessly to create a stunning display of food. The crowd was enormous, and the competition fierce, with dozens of renowned chefs showing off their talents. As the judges came by his booth, Marcus felt the weight of the moment. They tasted his dishes, scrutinizing each bite. After what felt like an eternity, the announcement came. Marcus had won a prestigious award for his innovative approach to traditional dishes. The recognition was not just a win for Marcus but for the entire team that had supported him along the way. It was a proud moment, and the victory only motivated Marcus to keep pushing the boundaries of what his restaurant could achieve. The award gave the restaurant even more credibility, bringing in a whole new wave of customers eager to experience the culinary creations that had earned Marcus the honor. As the accolades and success continued to roll in, Marcus faced a moment of self-reflection. He had come a long way from the days of being kicked out of the restaurant and struggling to find his place in the industry. However, with the spotlight on him, he began to feel the weight of his achievements and the expectations that came with them. During a quiet moment in the restaurant, Marcus overheard a conversation between 2 customers praising his food but also discussing how they'd heard he had changed. They mentioned that some of his old, humble charms seemed to have disappeared, and they missed the old Marcus, the one who worked tirelessly in the kitchen, who was humble and approachable. The words stung, but they also served as an important lesson. Marcus realized that in his pursuit of success, he had become more focused on expanding and achieving greater recognition, and he had started to lose sight of the very values that had made him great. That night, Marcus went home and thought deeply about what he wanted his legacy to be. He had worked hard to get to where he was, but he didn't want to lose the qualities that had initially made him stand out. He decided to return to his roots, spending more time with his team and customers, offering a more personal touch, and ensuring the restaurant's atmosphere remained warm and inviting. Marcus knew he could continue to grow while maintaining his integrity. It was a humbling realization, but one that would guide his decisions moving forward. A few months after the humbling moment, Marcus received an unexpected visit from his old mentor, John. John had been instrumental in Marcus's early days, offering guidance and advice when Marcus was at his lowest. The two hadn't spoken in a while, but when Marcus received the call, he was thrilled to reconnect. John arrived at the restaurant, impressed by how much Marcus had accomplished. But Marcus wasn't sure if his mentor would approve of the changes he had made in the restaurant. Despite the success, he had been questioning whether his approach had strayed too far from his original vision. To his surprise, John was nothing but proud of what Marcus had done. "You've built something truly remarkable here, Marcus," John said. "But what I admire most is that you've stayed true to your roots. Sure, there were challenges and changes along the way, but the heart of your restaurant, your food, your passion, is still the same. You've just elevated it." Hearing those words filled Marcus with a sense of reassurance. It was exactly the validation he needed. John reminded him that success wasn't just about recognition and awards but about staying authentic to one's passion. This visit rekindled Marcus's resolve to continue building his business without compromising the principles that had brought him this far. As the years passed, Marcus's restaurant continued to flourish. Each milestone, whether it was winning another award or opening new locations, was celebrated with his team and loyal customers. He had built a brand that was synonymous with quality, passion, and innovation. But Marcus never took the journey for granted. He regularly hosted small gatherings to thank his employees, the customers who had supported him from the beginning, and the community that had helped make his restaurant a success. These celebrations weren't about the accolades or the money, they were about recognizing the people who had played a part in his journey. One evening, Marcus stood at the center of a packed restaurant, holding a glass of wine. He raised it in a toast to his team, who had worked tirelessly by his side. "This restaurant is not just mine, it's ours," he said. "We've created something special, and it's because of all of you. Thank you for believing in me, for believing in our vision, and for sticking with me through the highs and the lows." The cheers and applause that followed filled Marcus with an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He had achieved everything he had set out to do, but what mattered most was the legacy he had built alongside the people he cared about. He had created not just a successful restaurant but a family. And in the end, that was the greatest accomplishment of all. As Marcus stood at the helm of his flourishing restaurant empire, he couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. What started as a single restaurant had now evolved into a network of successful eateries scattered across several cities. But despite the growth and the rewards, Marcus was starting to feel the weight of it all. The pressures of managing multiple locations, ensuring the quality of food remained consistent, and dealing with the day-to-day operations had begun to take a toll. Marcus realized that in order to move forward and maintain the integrity of his business, he would have to step back from the hustle of everyday operations. It was a difficult decision, but one that Marcus knew was necessary. He decided to appoint a team of trusted individuals to oversee the restaurants while he shifted his focus to something bigger, opening his own culinary school. This new venture had been a dream of his for years, and now, with the resources and connections he had built, it seemed like the right time to take the leap. The decision wasn't about walking away from his passion for food, it was about passing on the knowledge he had gained to the next generation of chefs. Marcus felt a renewed sense of excitement and purpose, knowing that he could mentor aspiring chefs in the same way he had been mentored all those years ago. Opening his culinary school was no small feat, but Marcus was determined to make it happen. He leased a spacious building in the heart of the city and began designing a curriculum that combined the technical aspects of cooking with the art of running a restaurant. He wanted to create a school that was not only about teaching students how to make great food but also about instilling the values of leadership, teamwork, and perseverance that had been instrumental in his own success. The school's tagline, "Where passion meets precision," quickly became a defining motto for both the students and faculty. The launch day of the culinary school was a monumental event. As Marcus stood on the stage, looking out at the eager faces of the first batch of students, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. These students were hungry for knowledge, and he was ready to impart everything he had learned over the years. The school quickly gained a reputation for producing some of the finest chefs in the industry, with many graduates going on to open their own successful restaurants or join top-tier kitchens. Marcus had found a new purpose, one that allowed him to give back to the culinary community while also ensuring that his legacy lived on through the students he mentored. Despite the success of his culinary school, Marcus soon realized that the transition from restaurant owner to educator wasn't as simple as he had imagined. The world of education came with its own set of challenges, and Marcus found himself facing a steep learning curve. He was now responsible not only for the curriculum and the students but also for managing a growing team of chefs and instructors. The pressure mounted as the school grew in popularity, and Marcus found himself having to balance his time between overseeing the daily operations of the school and continuing to expand his restaurant brand. At times, Marcus felt overwhelmed. He missed the adrenaline rush of running a bustling kitchen and working directly with his team on the floor. But he reminded himself that the struggles were part of the journey. He leaned on his trusted advisors and the mentors he had gathered over the years to help him navigate these new waters. Slowly but surely, Marcus found his rhythm in this new role, and he began to see the impact his culinary school was having on the industry. As the school's influence continued to grow, so did Marcus's sense of fulfillment. He had entered a new phase of his career, one that allowed him to mentor and inspire others, and it was proving to be just as rewarding as his time in the kitchen. Years had passed since Marcus opened his culinary school, and he had continued to evolve as a leader, educator, and entrepreneur. His restaurants had expanded into new markets, and his culinary school was now regarded as one of the top institutions for aspiring chefs. One day, Marcus received an unexpected call that would change everything. He was nominated for a prestigious national award for his contributions to the culinary world. The award recognized chefs, restaurateurs, and educators who had made a lasting impact on the industry. For Marcus, this nomination was more than just an honor. It was a validation of the years of hard work, sacrifice, and dedication he had put into his career. When Marcus was announced as the winner of the award, he was overwhelmed with emotion. Standing on the stage to accept the recognition, he realized that this moment wasn't just about him. It was about the people who had supported him along the way. He thanked his mentors, his team, and his students, who had all played a part in his success. The award was a testament to the legacy he had built, not just as a chef but as a mentor and a leader. For Marcus, the true reward wasn't the trophy. It was knowing that he had made a difference in the lives of so many people. As Marcus looked back on his journey, from being kicked out of his first restaurant to becoming a respected figure in the culinary world, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had come so far, and the lessons he had learned along the way had shaped him into the person he was today. The setbacks, the challenges, and the failures had all played a part in his success. Without them, he wouldn't have had the drive or determination to keep moving forward. Marcus realized that the key to his success was not just his cooking skills, but his resilience, his ability to learn from his mistakes, and his willingness to keep growing. He was grateful for every moment, every triumph, every failure, and every lesson learned. Marcus knew that his journey wasn't over. There were still new challenges to face, new goals to achieve, and new people to inspire. But he was ready for whatever came next. He had built a restaurant empire, mentored countless students, and left a lasting mark on the culinary world. Looking out at his team, his students, and his customers, Marcus knew that the best was yet to come. The future was bright, and he was excited to continue the journey wherever it would take him. As Marcus's career entered its next phase, he found himself contemplating the future of his culinary school and his restaurant empire. He had accomplished everything he had set out to do, but he wanted to ensure that his legacy would continue long after he was gone. He decided that it was time to start grooming a successor, someone who shared his passion for food, his vision for the future, and his commitment to excellence. After much thought, Marcus found the perfect candidate in one of his most talented and dedicated chefs, Emily, who had been with him since the early days. Marcus took Emily under his wing, mentoring her in all aspects of the business, from running the kitchen to managing the restaurants and the school. He shared with her not only the technical skills necessary to succeed but also the leadership lessons that had shaped his own career. Emily, who had always looked up to Marcus as a mentor, was both honored and humbled by the responsibility. She knew that taking over such a legacy would be no small task, but she was ready. When the time came for Marcus to step back and let Emily take the reins, he did so with full confidence that the future of his restaurant and culinary school was in good hands. It was the perfect ending to his journey, a passing of the torch to the next generation. One afternoon, as Marcus was enjoying a quiet moment in his office at the culinary school, he received an unexpected visitor. It was Thomas, the original owner of the restaurant where Marcus had been kicked out all those years ago. He had heard about Marcus's rise to success and wanted to see him again. Marcus was initially taken aback by the visit. After all, Thomas had been the one who had dismissed him from the kitchen in such a public and humiliating way. But Marcus knew that this moment was about more than just the past. It was about reconciliation and moving forward. When Thomas sat down across from Marcus, there was an air of awkwardness between them. The years of distance and success had created a strange dynamic. But as Thomas spoke, Marcus realized that his former boss was genuinely impressed by what he had accomplished. "You've built something incredible, Marcus," Thomas said. "I've seen what you've done with your restaurants and your school. You were always a special talent." The conversation shifted, and for the first time in years, Marcus saw Thomas not as the man who had kicked him out, but as a fellow chef. The two of them spoke about their experiences, sharing stories of their ups and downs in the industry. It wasn't long before they found common ground, acknowledging that, despite their differences, they both loved the craft of cooking. In that moment, Marcus realized that the true test of his success wasn't just in what he had built, but in his ability to forgive and move on. In the years that followed, Marcus's reputation continued to grow, and with it, his desire to give back to the community. He decided to host a large charity event at his culinary school, inviting some of the top chefs in the industry to showcase their skills while raising money for underprivileged communities in need of food assistance. It was a bold move, as the event would require immense coordination and resources, but Marcus was determined to make it a success. His vision was to not only help those in need but to also bring the culinary community together for a common cause. The event quickly gained traction, and chefs from all over the country volunteered their time and expertise. The atmosphere was electric as guests enjoyed gourmet dishes, live cooking demonstrations, and entertainment, all while knowing that the funds raised would go toward feeding families who were struggling to make ends meet. Marcus's involvement in the event went beyond just overseeing the kitchen. He personally worked alongside the chefs, contributing his knowledge and ensuring everything ran smoothly. At the end of the night, the event raised more money than Marcus had ever anticipated, and he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just about food, it was about using his influence and platform to make a real difference in the lives of those who needed it most. As the years went by, Marcus's family began to take a more prominent role in his culinary empire. His daughter, Lily, who had grown up watching her father in the kitchen, expressed interest in joining the business. Initially, Marcus was hesitant. He had always maintained a clear boundary between family and work, but Lily's passion for food was undeniable. She had spent her teenage years traveling with him to various restaurant openings, learning the ropes, and soaking in every aspect of the culinary world. Eventually, Marcus realized that this was the natural next step. Lily started as an intern at the culinary school, shadowing the chefs and instructors, before moving on to work in the family restaurants. She quickly made a name for herself with her innovative take on traditional dishes and her ability to lead with compassion and precision. As she proved herself over the years, Marcus began to rely more and more on her expertise. He saw in Lily the same drive and passion that had fueled his own journey, and he knew that she was ready to carry the family legacy forward. With a sense of pride, Marcus officially handed over some of the responsibilities of running the school and the restaurants to Lily, confident that she would continue to grow the business and leave her own mark on the culinary world. No journey, however successful, is without its setbacks. Just as Marcus was beginning to take a step back from the day-to-day operations of the culinary school, a major crisis hit one of his flagship restaurants. A health scare linked to a foodborne illness at the restaurant caused a public relations nightmare. Though the restaurant was cleared of any wrongdoing after an investigation, the damage to its reputation was significant. Customers began to stay away, and sales plummeted. Marcus was thrust back into the spotlight, now tasked with repairing the restaurant's reputation and restoring customer trust. The situation tested Marcus's leadership like never before. He spent countless hours working with the restaurant staff, revising protocols, and ensuring that the highest standards of food safety were being met. He also personally reached out to customers and critics, offering full transparency about the measures being taken to prevent such an incident from happening again. Slowly but surely, Marcus and his team rebuilt the restaurant's reputation, and it wasn't long before business returned to normal. Though the experience had been challenging, Marcus saw it as another important lesson. In the restaurant industry, success wasn't just about serving great food, it was about building trust, and that trust had to be earned with every meal, every day. As Marcus continued to build his empire, he began to feel an increasing desire to pass on his knowledge to the next generation of chefs. He realized that his true passion lay not in running restaurants or overseeing operations but in mentoring young talent. He began to dedicate more time to working directly with students at his culinary school, helping them refine their skills and guiding them through the complexities of the restaurant industry. The joy of seeing his students succeed, of knowing that he had played a part in their growth, became one of the most rewarding aspects of his career. One day, as he was sitting down with a young student named Daniel, Marcus had an epiphany. Daniel, a talented cook with raw potential, was struggling with confidence. He was unsure of his abilities and wasn't sure if he had what it took to make it in the competitive world of professional cooking. Marcus, remembering the doubts he had faced early in his own career, took Daniel under his wing, offering advice, encouragement, and a steady hand. Over time, Daniel blossomed into a remarkable chef, opening his own restaurant and becoming a success. It was moments like these that made Marcus realize the impact he was having, not just on the industry, but on the lives of the people he mentored. His true legacy wasn't in his restaurants or his awards, it was in the students he had helped shape and the chefs who had learned from him. After decades of running restaurants, teaching, and mentoring, Marcus reached a point where he felt that it was time to step away from the daily grind. He had built a thriving business, mentored countless individuals, and left an indelible mark on the culinary world. But as he prepared for his retirement, Marcus wanted to leave one final gift to the industry, his ultimate dish. He had always considered himself more of a teacher than a chef, but in his final years, he wanted to create something that encapsulated everything he had learned, a dish that combined his years of experience, innovation, and passion for food. Marcus spent weeks perfecting the dish, using only the finest ingredients and drawing inspiration from his travels around the world. It was a blend of traditional techniques with modern twists, a true reflection of his culinary philosophy. When the dish was finally ready, he invited his closest friends, family, and colleagues to the restaurant for a special event. As they tasted the dish, they marveled at the balance of flavors and the depth of creativity. For Marcus, it was the perfect way to close out his career, a final dish that represented everything he had worked for. As he passed on the torch to Lily and the next generation of chefs, Marcus knew that his legacy would live on through the food, the people, and the lessons he had imparted. As Marcus retired from the high-pressure world of restaurant ownership, he decided to establish a new venture, one that would honor his love for food and mentorship, the Chef's Table. This was not just any restaurant. It was an exclusive, invitation-only dining experience where only the most skilled and promising chefs could showcase their talents. The concept was simple: create a space where culinary artists could push boundaries, experiment, and serve guests dishes that were truly unique. For Marcus, this wasn't just about food, it was about fostering a sense of community among chefs, encouraging them to learn from each other, and offering them the freedom to innovate. The chef's table quickly gained notoriety for its intimate, collaborative atmosphere and the level of culinary talent it attracted. Marcus personally selected each chef who would take part, ensuring they were driven by passion and creativity. The dinners were not just meals, they were performances, a symphony of flavors orchestrated by the chefs. As word spread, the chef's table became a coveted venue for food lovers, critics, and aspiring chefs alike. While Marcus had moved into a more advisory role, the restaurant was a testament to his vision for the future of culinary arts. It became a place where the next generation of chefs could experiment, succeed, and, just as Marcus had once done, find their own paths to greatness. Despite his success, Marcus never forgot where he came from. His roots were in the humble kitchen, the small restaurant where his passion for cooking was first ignited. As his wealth and influence grew, so did his desire to give back to the community that had supported him in his early days. Marcus decided to open a new restaurant in his old neighborhood, one that was accessible to all and focused on providing high-quality food at affordable prices. He wanted to prove that good food didn't have to be expensive, and that the heart of a great restaurant wasn't in the luxury of its location or the prestige of its chef, but in the quality of its ingredients and the care put into every dish. The restaurant, which he named Roots, quickly became a local favorite. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, with a focus on comfort food made from locally sourced ingredients. Marcus personally oversaw the kitchen, guiding his team and ensuring that every dish reflected his values of quality and sustainability. Despite the restaurant's modest prices, the food was nothing short of extraordinary. It was here that Marcus could reconnect with his roots and share his love for cooking with the community that had shaped him. Roots became a symbol of his philosophy: great food, regardless of status or price, could bring people together and create lasting memories. After a lifetime of building a culinary empire, Marcus began to explore new opportunities outside of traditional restaurants. He realized that his experience and expertise could be valuable in other areas of the food world. One of his most ambitious projects was a line of cooking products designed for home cooks who wanted to replicate the high-quality dishes served in his restaurants. The product line included everything from sauces and spices to kitchen tools and cookware, all crafted with the same attention to detail that Marcus had applied to his professional kitchens. Marcus also partnered with culinary influencers and chefs from around the world to create an online platform where home cooks could learn directly from professionals. The platform offered virtual cooking classes, recipe tutorials, and one-on-one sessions with top chefs. Marcus knew that the future of cooking lay not just in restaurants, but in making culinary knowledge accessible to anyone who had a passion for food. By sharing his techniques and expertise with a broader audience, he hoped to inspire a new generation of cooks and home chefs to explore their creativity and love for cooking. It was at one of Marcus's exclusive chef's table dinners that a meeting took place that would change the course of his future. He had invited a group of renowned food critics, successful entrepreneurs, and media moguls to enjoy an evening of gastronomic delights. As the dinner unfolded, Marcus was introduced to a young tech entrepreneur named Daniel, who had recently developed an app that connected people with local farmers and food producers. Daniel shared his vision of creating a more sustainable food system by making it easier for consumers to access fresh, locally sourced ingredients, and Marcus was intrigued. The two hit it off immediately, discussing how technology could be used to improve the food industry and make it more sustainable. Over the next few months, Marcus and Daniel worked together to integrate Marcus's restaurants and product line into Daniel's app, creating a seamless connection between the chefs, local producers, and consumers. The app allowed users to order fresh ingredients directly from nearby farms and access exclusive recipes from Marcus's restaurants. The collaboration was a success, and it wasn't long before the app gained national attention. Marcus was excited by the possibilities of combining his culinary expertise with technology, and this partnership marked the beginning of a new chapter in his career. It wasn't just about cooking anymore. It was about revolutionizing the way people experienced food. As Marcus stepped further into the role of mentor and educator, he began to realize that his true passion lay not in creating new dishes or running a restaurant, but in teaching others the art of cooking. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment when he could pass on his knowledge and skills to the next generation of chefs, watching them grow and succeed in ways he never could have imagined. Marcus started offering masterclasses around the world, teaching not just cooking techniques, but also the philosophy behind his approach to food. His classes were highly sought after, attracting chefs and home cooks from all corners of the globe who wanted to learn from one of the best. One of the things that Marcus emphasized in his classes was the importance of creativity in the kitchen. While technique was important, he believed that true greatness came from pushing boundaries and experimenting with new ideas. He encouraged his students to trust their instincts and to never be afraid of making mistakes. Marcus's teaching style was hands-on, with plenty of time for students to try out new recipes and ask questions. The joy of watching someone succeed after struggling with a difficult dish was one of the most rewarding experiences of his career. For Marcus, teaching was not just about imparting knowledge, it was about inspiring others to find their own culinary voice and to always strive for excellence. Despite all of his accomplishments, Marcus never forgot the restaurant where it all began. The small, struggling establishment where he had been dismissed by Thomas seemed like a distant memory, but it held a special place in his heart. One day he received a call from the building's new owners, who were looking to sell the restaurant. After some consideration, Marcus decided that it was time to return and make his mark once again on the place that had shaped his career. He purchased the building and set out to restore it, not just as a restaurant, but as a tribute to his journey. The reopening of the original restaurant was a bittersweet moment for Marcus. It was here that he had been knocked down and forced to rebuild, but it was also here that he had learned some of his most valuable lessons. The new restaurant, which he named Full Circle, was designed to reflect everything he had learned along the way. It combined elements of his early days with his newfound knowledge of sustainability, community, and innovation. The menu featured updated versions of the dishes he had once cooked as a young chef, but with a modern twist. The reopening was a celebration of Marcus's journey, from a young, struggling chef to a culinary legend who had come full circle. As Marcus's empire grew, so did his commitment to sustainability. He began to realize that the food industry had a significant environmental impact, and he felt it was his responsibility to help make it more sustainable. His restaurants were already known for sourcing locally, but Marcus wanted to take things a step further. He decided to implement sustainable practices in every part of his operation, from using compostable packaging to reducing food waste. He partnered with organizations that focused on environmental preservation, ensuring that his businesses contributed positively to the planet. Marcus also launched a line of eco-friendly products, including reusable kitchen tools, energy-efficient appliances, and organic ingredients. His goal was to show the world that sustainability wasn't just a buzzword, it was a way of life. Through his initiatives, Marcus became an advocate for sustainable eating and living, speaking at conferences and hosting workshops to educate others on how to make a difference. His efforts paid off as more people in the food industry followed suit, making sustainable practices the norm rather than the exception. Marcus's commitment to sustainability became a defining feature of his brand, and it was a legacy he was proud to leave behind. In his quest to push culinary boundaries, Marcus had always dreamed of creating a one-of-a-kind dining experience. The opportunity arose when he was approached by a luxury travel company to collaborate on a new project, a restaurant located in a hot air balloon. This ambitious concept would allow diners to enjoy gourmet meals while floating high above the ground, offering breathtaking views as they indulged in Marcus's signature dishes. Marcus loved the idea, and after months of planning, the Sky Feast restaurant was born. The first flight was a resounding success, with guests raving about the unique experience and the delicious food. The concept quickly gained international attention, attracting celebrities, food critics, and thrill-seekers eager to experience dining at 10,000 feet. The menu for Sky Feast was carefully curated to include light, elegant dishes that would be easy to serve in such a setting, and each course was paired with wines chosen by top sommeliers. The hot air balloon restaurant toured the world, from the vineyards of France to the deserts of Dubai, offering an unforgettable experience that combined the best of fine dining and adventure. For Marcus, it was the ultimate expression of his philosophy. Food could be enjoyed anywhere, and the experience was just as important as the taste. The importance of family. While Marcus had always been passionate about food, It was his family that kept him grounded throughout his career. From the very beginning, his parents had been his biggest supporters, always encouraging him to pursue his dreams. As he grew older and his success skyrocketed, Marcus found himself spending more time away from home, traveling for business and overseeing his various restaurants. However, his growing success came at a cost. He was starting to lose touch with his family. Realizing that he was missing important moments in his family's lives, Marcus decided to make a change. He prioritized family time, setting aside dedicated days each week to spend with his loved ones. He also involved his family more in his business, having his wife manage some of the restaurant's operations while his children began to explore their own passions for food. Family dinners became a cherished tradition, where Marcus would cook for his family, just as he had done before his rise to fame. This shift in focus allowed Marcus to find a healthier balance between his career and personal life, and it brought him closer to the people who had always been there for him. As Marcus's career matured, he became increasingly focused on giving back to the culinary world that had given him so much. He knew that his success was due, in part, to the mentors he had encountered throughout his journey. It was now his turn to pass on the knowledge and wisdom he had accumulated over the years. Marcus established a mentorship program for aspiring chefs, offering them a chance to work under his guidance in his kitchens. This program was not just about learning cooking techniques, it was about understanding the philosophy of food and business, and how to navigate the challenges that came with being in the culinary world. The mentorship program quickly became a success, attracting young chefs from all over the world. Marcus took a hands-on approach, personally guiding each mentee through the various aspects of running a kitchen and a business. He also invited his former colleagues and other respected chefs to join the program, ensuring that the mentees received a diverse range of perspectives. For Marcus, seeing his mentees grow and succeed was one of the most rewarding parts of his career. He felt a deep sense of pride knowing that he was contributing to the future of the culinary industry and helping young chefs achieve their dreams. Marcus had been known for his ability to innovate and stay ahead of the curve. He was never content with simply following trends, he created them. As he looked back on his journey, he realized that his legacy would not just be about the restaurants he had built or the dishes he had created. It would be about his commitment to pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the culinary world. From experimenting with new cooking techniques to integrating technology into his restaurants, Marcus had always been at the forefront of innovation. To ensure that his legacy continued, Marcus founded a culinary innovation institute where chefs and food entrepreneurs could collaborate, experiment, and create the next big thing in food. The institute quickly became a hub for creativity, bringing together chefs, technologists, and food scientists to work on groundbreaking projects. Marcus also established a fund to support food startups that were focused on sustainability, innovation, and community development. Through the institute and the fund, Marcus hoped to inspire the next generation of food leaders and continue the work he had started years ago. It was his way of ensuring that the culinary world would continue to evolve long after he was gone. As Marcus entered his later years, he found himself reflecting on everything he had accomplished. From the young chef who had been kicked out of his restaurant to the successful entrepreneur and mentor he had become, his journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. Marcus had faced countless challenges along the way, but he had always persevered, fueled by his love for food and his desire to inspire others. He often thought back to the moment when he had been dismissed from the restaurant and how that event had set the course for his entire life. It was in these moments of reflection that Marcus realized the true value of his journey. It wasn't just about the accolades or the money, it was about the people he had met, the lives he had touched, and the lessons he had learned along the way. Marcus's story was one of resilience, determination, and the power of reinvention. As he looked back on his career, he knew that he had built something lasting, not just in terms of business, but in terms of the impact he had made on the culinary world and the people who had been a part of it. His legacy, he realized, would live on through the chefs he had mentored, the restaurants he had built, and the innovation he had brought to the food industry. As Marcus's name became synonymous with innovation and excellence, his influence spread beyond the borders of his own restaurants. He had become a global culinary icon, with his methods and philosophies being adopted by chefs all around the world. From Asia to Europe, Chefs were inspired by Marcus's ability to blend tradition with innovation, incorporating his techniques and recipes into their own kitchens. His impact was particularly felt in the way fine dining had evolved, with many now emphasizing a more sustainable, locally sourced, and health-conscious approach to menus. Marcus had fundamentally changed how people thought about food, turning it into a medium for creativity, expression, and social responsibility. In addition to his work in restaurants, Marcus became a sought-after speaker at culinary conferences and food summits. His keynotes inspired countless chefs and food professionals to think differently about their craft. He was not just a chef, but a thought leader in the food world. He discussed everything from the importance of environmental consciousness in kitchens to the use of technology in food preparation. His philosophies on cooking, leadership, and sustainability resonated far beyond the kitchen, and many of his ideas were incorporated into culinary curriculums at prestigious cooking schools worldwide. Marcus had truly become a catalyst for change in the culinary landscape, shaping the future of food for generations to come. Marcus's story had always been one of resilience and reinvention, but as his influence continued to grow, it also caught the attention of the media. He had gone from being a small-town chef to one of the most talked-about figures in the culinary world. The media frenzy surrounding him was relentless. Magazine covers, television appearances, and feature articles were all dedicated to his rise from humble beginnings to restaurant mogul. Interviews with Marcus became highly sought after, and every time he appeared in the press, the culinary world hung on his every word. Despite the attention, Marcus remained grounded. He understood that the media could be both a blessing and a curse, and he chose to use it wisely. He continued to promote his values of sustainability, mentorship, and innovation, hoping to steer the conversation back to what mattered most: the future of food and its impact on the world. He also used his platform to highlight social causes, such as hunger relief and food insecurity, turning his fame into a force for good. As the media spotlight grew brighter, Marcus found himself in an even better position to make a meaningful difference in the industry, ensuring that his message reached a global audience.